Hey there, lads and ladies. Got burritos? Want some more? Listen, if you want to multiply your collection of Sedum morganianum burrito, then stick the around and listen up. Because if you follow the instructions that I'm about to lay down, then you'll have more burritos than you did before you followed the instructions. Hey there, I'm Smith Kingston, Houseplant Guru Extraordinaire. Joining us today we have GabMonster, Toby McSchmuter, and the strikingly attractive Lady Space Cowgirl. Alrighty people, these two adorable blue-green succulents here are named Lacey and Barbara. These two classy sassy ladies belong to the species known commonly as Burros Tails, Donkey Tail, or Burrito Sedum, and known scientifically as Sedum morganianum burrito. This species is easily recognized by their tiny little round bulbous blue-green leaves and long trailing stems, which can grow up to 4 feet in length. Because of these features and because they're so easy to grow, Burrito Sedums are very popular for keeping in hanging baskets and in all kinds of succulent arrangements. Here's the thing though, some say that the best feature of Sedum morganianum burrito is that they are so fucking easy to propagate. And yeah, that's exactly what we're about to do, but we can't do any chopping on these two classy sassy broads until we got our shit together. So without further ado, the tools necessary for the multiplication of these sweet green succulent bulbous leafy bitches are a magical paintbrush.
Oh my gosh.
Hey. A clean sharp cutting tool, preferably pruning shears. Some containers, some cactus mix, if you've got one, a succulent leaf propagation tray, and last but not least, all the necessary sundries for potting our burrito cuttings once they've been, acquired. Personally, I prefer to use a soup spoon, a serving spoon, and a paintbrush, though I'm sure many will prefer to use a trowel and some chopsticks, or a hairpin, or a screwdriver, or an ice pick, or that sharp stick they found by the creek that Saturday they were out hunting ghosts with their llamas.
Ghosts? Llamas?
Anyway, now that we got our shit together, let's get to it. Now, this isn't super important, but try to take cuttings that are longer than 3 inches. Smaller cuttings are okay, but will be slightly more likely to dry out before getting the chance to form their own root system, whereas longer cuttings with more leaves will be able to photosynthesize a root system much more quickly. Also though, you might want to consider that while longer cuttings may root down a little bit more quickly, really long cuttings might be difficult not to disturb during the window in which they are growing roots, as far as avoiding bumping or jostling them is concerned. Also, I didn't mention it earlier, but tweezers can come in very handy for removing any in-the-way leaves when making your cuttings. Alrighty, now that we've got our cuttings, cut, it's time to prepare some homes for these freshly acquired bulbous leafy friends. In order to do this, we're going to pack some cactus mix into as many draining containers as we think we'll need. I realize that you may have heard elsewhere that it is better not to pack your cactus mix, but to pot the cuttings of succulents into a loosely packed mix. But listen, because we are using a cactus mix, as long as we water these future plants correctly, even a well-packed container of soil should drain more than quickly enough to protect the roots of these someday succulent showstoppers. While loosely packed soil might drain just a little bit quicker, it will settle over time, which could create issues with moisture retention as well as other problems down the road. Try to leave between 1/4 of an inch and 3/8 of an inch of space between the surface of the soil and the brim of your container. Next, before we can pot these cuttings, we need to remove a few of these cute little round leaves in order to expose between 1 and 1.5 inches of stem at the base of each cutting. Hang on to those leaves though, I'll show you why a little bit later. And yeah, now that we've got our stems exposed and some homes prepared for these burritos, let's get this new generation generation of bulbous leafy bitches potted into their freshly prepared containers. Start by jabbing your paintbrush, ice pick, ghost stick, or other protuberance into the soil in order to prepare a path for the insertion of your freshly de-leaved burrito stem. Then submerge the entire leaf-free bit of stem into the cactus mix so that the leaves lowest on the stem are right on top of the soil. Then, once that container is, at capacity, jab your paintbrush into the soil a few extra times in order to ensure that the cactus mix in your containers gets nestled right up against the subterranean stems of your burrito cutting. And as for the leaves that we removed just a little bit ago during the stem exposure process, I'm gonna go ahead and add them to a succulent leaf propagation tray that I just barely threw together real quick using a teeny tiny baking sheet and some regular all-purpose potting mix. There are other more effective, less expensive ways to construct a succulent leaf propagation tray that we've gone over in much more detail in other videos, but because that particular tray is currently at capacity and for the sake of expediency, we're going to put these particular leaves on this less complicated but more expensive tray. Okie dokie, lads and ladies. Now that we're done with all the hacking, potting, and succulent leaf propagation, let's have a little chat about where to go from here as far as taking care of all these sweet little green leafy bulbous bitches is concerned. Since Lacey and Barbara already have well-established root systems, we're going to continue to give them pretty much the same care we always have. So yeah, if you want to learn the basics of taking care of Burrito Sedum succulents, then check out this video where we go into all kinds of detail about all that shit. As far as the fresh potted cuttings are concerned though, we're going to take care of these root-free bitches just a little bit differently over the course of the next 3 weeks or so. While root-laden Burrito Sedums can tolerate some direct sunlight, we are going to keep these cuttings in the brightest indirect sunlight we can find, but out of direct sunlight. Indirect sunlight will be bright enough to give these little cuttings all they need to develop their own root system, but won't be bright enough to burn them up or dry them out before they've had a chance to do so. And as far as watering these root-free burrito babies, we're gonna wait 3 weeks before we give them any water. I realize that it might be tempting to give them a drink a little bit sooner than that, but the fact is that until they've developed their own root system, watering these fresh potted cuttings can only harm them. And yeah, if a couple days after their first watering, these sweet little burrito babies appear to be less wrinkly, that will tell us that they have in fact developed a root system, and from there we'll slowly transition them into even brighter light and begin giving them the same care as our already idiotically gigantic host of happy Sedum morganianum burritos. Also, it is worth mentioning that this video is being filmed in mid-May, which at least in the northern hemisphere is towards the beginning of this plant's growing season. This is great news for both the cuttings and the mother plants as well. Because of this, we can expect today's loving mutilation to trigger some new growth on Lacey and Barbara. So yeah, once you've taken the cuttings off your mother plant, if there is a spot on that plant that you'd like to see some new growth occur, a good way to, request some new growth in that place is by breaking off 1 or 2 leaves in exactly that location. And with any luck, within 3 or 4 weeks, you should be able to expect to see some tiny little green leaf clusters growing in exactly those places. And propagating Burrito Sedums early in their growing season is great news for the cuttings as well, since it means there will be no need for the use of a rooting hormone. So that's cool. Also, I should mention that all the containers we use in this video are draining containers. That's right, draining containers. Because we're not stupid ass dumb who do like f***ing around with non-draining containers. Now, I'm going to continue to call these 2 plants Lacey and Barbara, but I have yet to name these 3 plants. So if you have any suggestions for naming these salty succulent bitches, let me know in the comments, and if the name fits, I'll make it official and give you a shout out on Instagram. Hey, listen. Do you like bad graffiti, worse jokes, wacky macrame, and pretty good advice about taking care of your houseplants? Well then f***ing subscribe. Thanks, Toby. That's right. Click that notification bell too so you never miss a new video.